Some of you are familiar with different ways of approaching stress through different types of therapy, different modalities within the therapy world or within the therapy scope. Perhaps you are a therapist, perhaps you have attended therapy of some kind as a way of helping you deal with stress or maybe anxiety or maybe even something like a temporary issue in your life. So today specifically, I want to talk about cognitive behavioral therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy is not that difficult to understand, especially if you pay attention to the name. The bottom line, or the main thing when it comes to cognitive behavioral therapy, is about examining, truly examining, and debunking or revising thoughts and behaviors that don't serve us. So maybe you find yourself having certain beliefs or certain thoughts or engaging in certain behaviors that you've simply done over time, and you do it because maybe you've done it for a long time, maybe you've always done it, maybe people around you do it, maybe it's one of those things that is supposed to be true but it really isn't, and nobody's ever checked the facts, but everybody's just doing it. Maybe you have a bad habit, maybe you have bad thoughts, maybe you have bad behaviors, but that's just what you've done. Until you examine those thoughts and those behaviors, and they're equally as important, then you can't really say with conviction whether or not the thoughts or the behaviors or the emotions are serving you or harming you, if they're helping you to deal with stress management better, or if they're bringing more stress into your life. Cognitive behavioral therapy is about interrupting patterns, whether it's patterns of thought or behavior or emotions that don't serve you, patterns that are detrimental rather than helpful. This form of therapy is solution oriented, which is great when it comes to stress management. Rather than wasting time in old patterns of thoughts, behaviors, or feelings, this is about truly examining what's what to either support or debunk what those so-called truths that have been part of your life truly are. And of course, part of that examination of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, part of uprooting or debunking those things that aren't true, means looking at perception, evaluating your perception. What lens are you using to look at something, to think about something, to behave in a certain way? And is that serving you? Because perception is pretty big when it comes to what we feel, what we think, and how we act. It's a filter that affects those things. So remember, when you consider cognitive behavioral therapy as a tool that can be helpful to you in stress reduction and in effective stress management, perception is right up there. At first, it may be difficult to recognize those certain patterns of thoughts or feelings or behaviors that really should be changed, really should be deleted or removed from your experience in order to help you better deal with stress. So you may reach out to a professional, an actual therapist who can engage in cognitive behavioral therapy with you to help you to identify those patterns that really should be changed in order for you to be at your best. Sometimes it may be enough to ask a trusted third party. Maybe that's your best friend, maybe that's your parent, maybe that's your spouse. So think about those as some considerations. And I bring those up because when it comes to self-reflection, especially about old patterns, be it thought, feelings, or behavior, sometimes we can be a little bit blind to what's going on, which is why I suggest having another person, someone you trust, talk to you about it. And of course, an actual therapist would be the best option to help you figure out what's going on with those negative patterns and how to change them. Once you are able to identify the negative patterns, thought, behavior, emotions, it's absolutely critical that you replace it with something better, with something more helpful, with something more positive. You kind of have to push it out of its place. You expose it, understand it, and then you push it out of its place so that you can put something else in its stead, put something else in its place. And ideally, that something else should be a healthy thought, a healthy behavior, a healthy emotion, something that will help you to deal with life and all its stressors and all its adventures in a more effective way. A quick technique that I'd like to introduce to you here, just as something to practice, is when you look at some negative pattern. Let's say that maybe you tend to think the worst or expect the worst. You may want to consider something like writing out a list of what's good about this type of thought pattern, what's neutral about this thought pattern, and what's bad about this thought pattern, this type of thought pattern. Putting things on paper, identifying them, defining them, and assigning a list of values that would describe them or that would allow you to weigh their pros and cons can be very helpful. Simple exercise like that can help you to shift from a negative set of beliefs or behaviors or emotions to one that is neutral, or dare I even hope, helpful and positive. And remember, when it comes to stress management, you can never have enough tools in your toolbox, because you will very unlikely use the same tools every time, but rather, as you should, you will pick and choose from what's available in your toolbox so that you are most efficient and most effective in terms of dealing with your stress and managing it properly. If you'd like to learn more about a comprehensive approach to stress management, check out the link below.